Oh, you hear me okay? Ooh, that's loud. I'm not used to microphones. Is that okay for you in there? Okay. I don't usually do microphones. Put that away. Turn this one off. There we go. Hi. I'm Eddy Azcarate. A couple things real quick. Everybody understands what I'm saying? You're hearing me okay? Everything's good? Me dijeron que tú no hablas mucho inglés, ¿verdad? Okay. De vez en cuando voy a decir algo en español para explicarte algo. Okay, we do have one person in the audience who doesn't speak English very well, so I will occasionally say a couple of things in Spanish just to make sure that she has the information, at least some of the highlights, okay? But most of it's going to be in English, I promise. I could do this all in Spanish. How about that? No? No. Okay. A little bit about me real quick. I'm born and raised right here in Bailey's Crossroads. So I've lived here for over 50 years. I was in the Navy, I was in the Marine Corps, and I've been a police officer now for 23 years. And this is the best job I've had on the department because I get to meet with the community and not have to go running around and not have to do police work, right? I can talk to you and you can ask me questions. I didn't bring a lot of slides. I'm going to talk a lot, but I didn't bring a lot of slides. I'm hoping that we're going to get some questions. So I want you to get comfortable. Relax. Think about your questions. If I say something you don't understand, ask me. And then we'll work into examples and concerns and everything else as we move along. Good start? Any questions before I begin? Okay. This is an old slide. But what is the internet? The reality is it's a way that started with computers talking to computers. It started in the university systems. University in Arkansas could talk to a university in China, who could talk to a university in England, who could talk to a university in New York, and that's how it started. They wanted to be able to pass education and information along. But over time, as we know, we now use the internet to talk to our families. We talk to friends, we get information. We're constantly on some sort of superhighway. We now can get around the world that fast. And we do it by getting on our computers and by getting on our cell phones. And I'm going to show you, when we get in here, talking about, I know that this is hard to read, so I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to read a couple things to you. Because what this is showing you is what most kids in particular are using the most. The very first one at the top, oh, this TV's not going to work. My pointer's not going to work. Okay. Talking to teenagers, 85% use YouTube. That's where I didn't talk about my kids, but my youngest is 15. He doesn't watch TV. He watches YouTube. That's all he watches. 100%. He does not watch TV. He can't tell you what's on ABC, NBC. He doesn't have a clue. But he can get on YouTube and watch anything he wants. The second most popular is something called Instagram. If you don't know what it is, I have a little information about Instagram. We're going to talk about it. Another one is Snapchat. Then you go down, the kids, Facebook. We all have Facebook accounts? Yeah, that's because we're old. Our teenagers don't use Facebook because our parents were on Facebook and they don't want to be on the same thing we're doing. They want to be on something different, something cool, something young, something fresh, something fast. Facebook is slow, comparatively speaking. So, Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit, those are the rest on that list. The kids don't really use those a whole lot. Adults do. Reddit is very popular among adults. That's why only 7% of kids even know what it is. Now, to me, this was a very surprising number. What it's telling us in the first column The one on the left, it's people who use laptops and desktop computers, regular computers. The column on the right talks about how many use cell phones. Just out of curiosity, who in here does not have a cell phone? That's what I thought. Everybody has cell phones. And the column on the right says, for teens, 95% use the smartphones to get on the internet, to use the applications. It says, and it doesn't matter, white, black, Hispanic, boys, girls, it's all in the 90s. They talk about income. They talk about whether you make a lot of money or a little money. If you make less than $30,000 a year, there's still 93% using cell phones. Talks about education, if you went to college, to the university, or not. If you didn't go to high school, finish or complete high school, it's still 94%. What that tells me is it doesn't matter where you're from, how much money you make, who you are, how smart you are, what you do for a living. Everybody's using this. We all have them. Now, as parents, do we know everything this can do? I don't. Back in the 60s, we went to the moon. The United States went to the moon. The computer that they used could fill this entire room. There's more power. There's probably 100 times more power in this phone than there was in that computer. And they got people into space and on the moon. It's crazy, the power that you have in here. It's my camera, it's my phone, it's my access to information. You know, I see somebody on TV and I go, I watched a show the other night, and Cher, the actress and singer, was on TV. And I said, how old is she? I didn't know. I just knew she was older, a little older than me, and I took a guess and I went, click. Oh, she's 73 years old. It took me about 30 seconds to find the answer. And I know that she's 73 years old and she was born in May 20th or 23rd or something like that. We have all this information. Our kids are using all this information. They're using it to share. They're using it to talk to their friends. And there you go. They're using it indiscriminately. They're using it as if they're talking to their friends, but they don't know them. They don't know who's on the other end. So this first video I'm going to play you is a little scary. Know that when they get on social media, they don't really know the person on the other side. And this is some of the things that can happen. Now, both of those examples, sorry, I'm not used to the microphone. Both of those examples were using Facebook. But you can use Instagram, you can use Snapchat, you can use text messaging, you can use YouTube. There's a lot of ways to communicate. And there are some methods that the kids can use. There's apps that we can get on our phone that they can hit a button and it hides it. So you look at the phone and you go, there's nothing there. Can't do that. Got to learn how to find the stuff in the phone. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. I just expressed that because we've all had those conversations with our kids. Don't talk to strangers. Don't give out your phone numbers. Don't give out your addresses. Don't give out all this stuff because we're trying to protect them. We don't know everybody. You know, even in this place, for those that are members of the Al-Hijrah, you don't know everybody here. You know most of them, but you don't know all of them. I grew up at St. Anthony's down the street, the Catholic church down the street. I didn't know everybody there. That's one of the largest churches in the area. I didn't know them. I grew up, I knew most, I recognized a lot of them, but I really didn't know them. So we don't want to share all that personal information, even in a religious setting, a school setting. The teachers can access that information, but you don't want to go share that information with everybody else. Now, this young lady posts a lot of videos. I found 2 of them that I thought was interesting because it's going to give you a little bit more insight to specifically Instagram right now. And I believe the other one is Snapchat that I put in here. So let's watch her for a minute. She talks to you, the parents. So she's telling us from a teenager's perspective what we need to know, right? Hey, give me 5. Give me 5. Okay. A couple things that she said. We need to talk to our kids. One thing she didn't say, we need to learn these systems. We need to learn these applications. So my 19-year-old daughter does Twitter. She likes Twitter. That's her favorite. She did Snapchat for a while, and she's done some other things. She's on Facebook, but that's only because she's in college and her professors use it. But we can learn. My older kids started with Facebook and Snapchat. They're now adults, and they're living on their own. But when they started getting into these social media things, I got them. So I have all those apps on my phone. And I became their friend. So I'm their friend in Twitter. I'm their friend in Snapchat. I'm their friend in whatever they're using. So anytime they post something, I see it. I can see everything they post. And another step that we took in my family is we shared the cloud. You know how everything on your phone gets backed up? Everything gets backed up on the cloud, right? Well, we share the same cloud. So if they take a picture that they don't put on Snapchat, I can still see that picture too. So I can see all of it. And all 3 of my girls are adults, but I still see every picture they take on their phone. Get involved. Be involved with your children and be involved with what they're doing. We need to learn what they're doing. I don't understand some of it, but I pretend like I do, and I keep reading and watching the videos. I use YouTube to help me. Those 3 videos you've seen all came from YouTube, every single one of them. I just did a search. I started looking around, spent a long time, but I found what I needed. Now, 3 things that she said that we need to know and remind our kids and go back and check. Make sure that all their friends is someone they already know. So if someone friends me and I have no idea who that person is, don't say yes. Unless they're a big-time celebrity and they want to have 1 million followers, okay, that's different. But I don't think any of our children or us are celebrities that are going to have all these people following us. It's social media. It's to be friends with our friends, or a way to communicate with our friends. So if I know Susie, Susie can be one of my followers. If I know Jake, Jake can be one of my followers. We want to keep it with the people we know. That's important. The privacy settings. Every computer, every phone, every application within the phone has a privacy setting. It can be open or it can be closed. Close them all. Make them for your friends only. That way strangers can't just throw things in there or add you to something else. That's important. The thing about the geotagging, because as I said at the beginning, most people are using their phones rather than their computers. Your phone is constantly checking where you are. We use the Maps app. We use some sort of GPS on our phone. It's constantly telling us where we are. Has anybody in here used Waze? I see a couple hands go up. Okay. Waze is constantly tracking you unless you turn that feature off. You can go in and tell Waze, only use my location when the app is open. That way it's not constantly tracking you. In Waze, you can still talk to people too. You can find other Waze users that you have no idea who they are. So that's one example. It's not a social media site by definition, but it can be used the same way. And you can find where people are. The Find My Friends. Hopefully you're only going to do this with your friends, but you can go in and identify somebody and then put a note in there saying, if they leave this area, it will notify me that they left that area. So I've used that with the kids. Shh. So I know if they're at a house and they leave, a certain radius around that house, I get a notification that they left that house. One day, before I had that, my oldest daughter said she was going to her friend's house. We'll call her Karen. She was going to Karen's house. Instead, she went to her boyfriend's house. What she didn't know is that her phone was tracking her location. So Mom and I tracked the phone. Her phone was over here. Karen lives over here. She got in trouble that night. And we took her phone and we took her car, because she had her own car at the time. We took everything for a little while. She was not happy with me. I don't care. She came home safe, and that's all I really cared about. For those of us that still use computers, like I said, this is another one of those old slides. Check your router, because that is access to your computer. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go talk to your older children and say, let's put a password on the router if you don't already have one. Okay? That's the box that connects to Cox or connects to AT&T so your computer can access the internet. That's the router. When you're doing the passwords, don't use one of those passwords. Those are the bad passwords. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. But think about it. Have you ever used your password to be the word password? Or your password to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Or your password to be A, B, C, D, E? No, I was a couple of people like, nope, not me. But a lot of people do. A lot of people do. What I do is I have a phrase. It's like 3 words long. And then a couple of the letters are capitalized. A couple letters, I use numbers instead. Like I'll use a 0 instead of an O. Or I'll use a $sign instead of an S. Something like that. Put some of those kinds of things in there. You want to do it as much as you can. Make it difficult. That includes your phone. I have an iPhone, but the other phones have those little designs that you can do to unlock your phone. Don't make it something difficult. And my password on here, it only allows me 6 digits. Okay? So I come up with the craziest number I can find. Be random as possible. Don't use your address. I live at 2006 Elm Street. So my password is 2006. No, don't do that. Okay, make it difficult. That's on your phone, that's on your computers, everything. We already talked about that. Post or don't post. Now, the way I taught my kids and the way I recommend most people do it, not that I've been 100% successful, but this is what you should do, is start when they're this age, right? These little guys running around, they need to know now that they need to be able to talk to the ladies, the women, the moms is always a safe person. Police officers are safe people. The store clerk is a safe person. Who can they talk to? And be able to give just their name and your phone number. That's all they really need. We always used to teach people, hey, what's my address? Okay, we want to know your address. You should know your address. But who do you give that information to? If you're going to post it online, who's going to read it? It's not the police. because I'm not searching it. It's going to be some criminal, probably. So we want to make sure that we teach them early. So all this really is saying is, if you're going to post it online, who are you telling? Is it someone you trust? Is it someone you know? Personally, I don't tell anybody on a computer. I'm on the phone with my own bank, and they ask me for information. I go, nope. I already gave you my name. You should be able to find everything you need. Because if they called me and I need to verify they're really the bank, they should already have my information. They shouldn't need me to tell them my information. That's where the scams come in. That goes right back to posting. Don't just give away that information. That's the computer side. That's a little bit of the phone side. I was peeking ahead to see what the next slide is, because I mentioned the hidden apps. I want to make sure I was on the right track. And I'm going to talk a little bit faster here at the end, so I give you some time for some questions. These are some examples of apps, applications that can be put on your phone that can be hidden. I can look on the phone and I can not find it. So I know it's hard to read, but that bottom part, if you go to the applications on your phone and look for updates to the applications on your phone, that's where you're going to find it. I don't care what kind of phone you have. If you go to the application store, or however it's called on your phone, in there is going to be an updates section. That's where you're going to find every application that's ever been on that phone, whether it's active or not. And you can find out, you can look through there. Is this an application you know? Okay, it's Twitter. I knew about that. Okay, it's Facebook. I knew about that. Okay, it's my mail. I know how to do my email. That's good. But if is it one of those is like one of them says secret agent. What is that? Go find out. If it's on your phone, why is it there? Who put it there? It's going to be one of your kids. Probably. If you didn't put it there. And notice that it doesn't always look right. Like that second one looks like a calculator app. So that's what it looks like. But it's not really a calculator. It's a way of communicating with somebody else secretly. So we need to learn and be a little wary of these things. You are in charge. You make sure that your kids, even the ones in high school, I'm talking about all the way through age 18, you are still in charge. My 19-year-old, I had one of my kids was 19 and still in high school because she was younger. And so she graduated a little later. But even though she's living at home and she's 18, 19, she's an adult. She's in my house. I'm in charge. She follows my rules. And she learned that when she was this big. And then as she got older, I didn't have to re-educate her. She knew that it was going to be, Mom is in charge, Dad's in charge, you're going to do it our way. It's difficult to talk about some of these subjects. Don't be afraid to. You have those conversations. You understand life. We've all lived a little bit longer than our own children have. We need to educate them. They need to know that what they're going through is not uncommon. We were all teenagers once. We had all those weird feelings inside. We had all those wanting to be secretive from our parents. We've all done it. That's normal. But they need to understand that they have the confidence and the strength to share some of that with us. This is just a good list. I've already talked about all this, so just look at it real quick. Moving on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on sexting. Sexting is nothing more than taking a picture that's inappropriate and then sending it to someone else. That's the bottom line. From a legal standpoint, if you send it, that's called the creation of pornography. If you accept it, that's the possession of pornography, assuming that the child involved is young. And that's usually, unfortunately, the case. So we start early. We remind them that's never. Would you walk around the house? Or let me rephrase. Many people might do it in the house, but would you walk around outside with no clothes on? Well, if you take a picture of yourself with no clothes on and then send it out into the internet where the public can see it, that's essentially the same thing. So obviously we don't want to encourage that in any way. Not just sexting, but any type of inappropriate photograph. It doesn't matter what it doesn't have to be sex related. It could be killing somebody or making the motions of killing somebody. It could be hurting someone. It could be belittling someone. Those are things that are going to lead to real life consequences. Cyberbullying, people can be mean. We all have experienced it. They can be mean to your face, but at least you know who it is. If I'm being mean to you, you know that it's me. But if you're online, you don't know who it is. And you can't argue, you can't fight back, you can't discuss, you can't share your emotions or your feelings with that person and try to find a resolution. It's a one-way conversation. It's not good. And for teenagers, it can become deadly, quite honestly. You don't be afraid to report it either. You want to encourage your children to talk to you, and if it becomes serious enough, you need to have the courage to report it either at the school and or to the police and or to a social worker and or to your peers here. You're in a support group here. We're here learning. Share with each other and give each other some guidance and some strength as to what you can do. Don't keep that bottled in. This is not one of those things because we just don't know enough about it. Somebody else knows more than you, go find that person. Language. Now, we have a couple languages in here. I don't know how many languages you all speak, but I imagine there's like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 languages in the room alone, right? The kids have their own language that's totally different. It's not English, it's not Farsi, it's not Spanish, it's not Chinese. It's something totally different. We don't know it. On the English side, there is an online dictionary called the Urban Dictionary. Know this, if you choose to go there, there are some things in there that can be offensive. But a lot of the kids use it because they can find abbreviations and they can use words that most people don't know, but they know what the meaning is. So it's not a real English dictionary, but it shows you a lot of slang and a lot of things that the kids are saying today. I've used it at work a lot. To go, I heard something, but I'm not sure what they meant. I'll go look it up and go, oh, he was not very nice. Something to think about. I'm not going to play this. I'm not going to play that slide. 1, because of the time. And 2, I'll just briefly tell you, that's a video of Amanda Todd. If you want to look it up, you can look up Amanda Todd. It'll come up just by typing her name. She was a teenager in Canada who was being bullied online. She took some pictures that got shared. She did that video with her cards. You never see her face. She just did those cards. 3 days after she did that video, she killed herself. So it's a very poignant story, but I didn't want to put you through the whole thing. I just summed it up for you in 30 seconds. I've talked about a variety of things, and I didn't talk about gangs. I apologize, but we're running out of time. So I'd like to go ahead and ask for questions, and I will answer anything except give you my address, my social security number, my birthday, all the things that I wouldn't put online. I won't answer those, but I'll answer everything else. All right, now you got to get the courage. I need one person to be that first question. Yes, ma'am. The question is about bullying. There's a lot of bullying in the schools today. There's little that the social workers can do. There's little that the schools can do. What is the role of the police within the bullying? Did I get it right? Okay. The police department also has very little they can do. Bullying is intimidation, is name calling. Sometimes it's destruction of property. Sometimes it's physical assault. The counselors, along with the parents, along with the school administration, try to re-educate our youth so that they learn to be kind. We want to start them when they're that age. But once it happens in middle school and high school, we want to re-educate the youngsters. Hey, this is wrong, this is why. You've been taught that. That's what they're working on. The police get involved once there's a crime. If it's just misbehaving, we don't get involved. There's a line there. We will come in when there's a violation. If one kid pushes another, technically that's a violation of law. By the definition of assault, that is an assault. Touching somebody who doesn't want to be touched, whether in any form, that's an assault. I touch you, you didn't want me to touch you, that's technically an assault. A push. My son was a victim of bullying, where one young man took my son's book and tore it, ripped it in half, his binder, literally destroyed the binder. As a parent, I could go to the school, get the information, and charge this kid for destruction of property. That's an option. Excuse me. That's an option that I have available to me as a parent. We chose not to do that. We found other ways because we were able to get the counselors involved, and we were able to talk to the parents of the other child, and we did all that, and it got better. But it takes time, and that's the frustrating part. We're dealing with youth. Think about how hard it is for us to change. It's just as hard for them. So the role of the police is minor at the beginning, almost non-existent. Once a violation of law happens, then there's some options that we can take. Unfortunately, they're very severe options because we're talking about taking this youngster to see a judge and see whatever penalties they might face in that system. So a lot of people don't call the police for bullying. Unfortunately, I think we should do more of it. That's my opinion. I wonder why. So, good question, though. Any other question? When I was introduced, they mentioned the word gangs. I'll give you a 1-minute thing on gangs, okay? They exist. They are real, and they are here in Fairfax County. And I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, Southern, Northern, Eastern, black, white, green, yellow, red. You make a lot of money, you make a little money. It doesn't matter. I have seen gang members across the entire spectrum. And what I didn't tell you at the beginning is I did work as a gang detective for several years. So I have personal experience of working with the gangs. Granted, it was predominantly the Hispanic gangs, because I do speak Spanish, so that's where they always took me, was to work with those gangs. But I saw it across the board. The good thing that we have here in Fairfax County is that our gangs don't do a whole lot of big things. You're going to see them in the neighborhood. You're going to see them beating up kids. You're going to see them destroying a car, something like that. Serious crimes. Don't get me wrong. They are serious. But in the grand scheme of things, we don't see the big problems that we see in other areas of the country and in other areas of the world. We do have them. We've had several homicides, murders in Fairfax County that were gang-related. But in the grand scheme of things, they're really, really, really small. So what I tell everyone, and I did it for years, is let's keep our children engaged. Give them something to do. Give them an after-school project, whether it be an athletic event, whether it be a club, whether it be the theater, whether it be coming to your house of worship and participating in an event there, or being a helper in some fashion at the house of worship, or going to the community center and participating in the events there. There's many, many options. So keep them busy, and they won't have the opportunity or feel the need to go join another group on their own. And that's what they're doing, because they're isolated or alone, and they're finding a group to be a part of. Well, bring them back into the family. Bring them back into the community that you want them to be in, and give them an active role. If they're engaged here, one, you can keep an eye on them. Two, you know that they're going to develop in the direction you want them to develop, and they're going to be happy. They're going to be happy here. They think they're going to be happy there. So let's keep them where we know it's going to be better for them. That's my 1 minute on gangs. Did I generate any new questions? You guys were chatting. A question over here? More English? Okay. Okay. The question has to do with drugs. Marijuana specifically, because it's become so popular, even down into the middle school, obviously in the high schools as well. Right now, marijuana in Virginia is still illegal. You can't smoke it. You can't have it. Don't do it. We, as the police, will charge you. We'll take the possession of marijuana. If you're distributing it, if you're selling it, we're going to charge you for that as well. Whenever we find it, we take it and we destroy it. It has become really popular. It is everywhere. The real challenge for us, and I'm going to guess this is where this question really came from, is that you're in your apartment and you smell marijuana in the hallway, or you smell it down the hall coming from a particular apartment. We get calls for that all the time. We will come to you and talk to you about it, but I can't just go and barge into that apartment that probably has marijuana in it. I can knock on the door, I can try to talk to them, but if they don't answer the door, if they don't let me into the apartment, I cannot go in there. The civil rights of the United States are such that you have an expectation of privacy in your home. The only reason I'm going to go into your home, well, there's a lot of reasons, but in the end, I have to have a legal reason to be in your house, in your apartment, in your home. I can't just walk in. And that's a hard thing for people to, they want me to do something. We know something illegal is going on in there, but smoking marijuana is not somebody getting killed. I'll break into your house if there's shooting going on, if there's a stabbing going on, something life-threatening, I'm going to go into your house. But marijuana is still what we call misdemeanor. It's a small crime, and we're not going to go breaking into your house for that. So, how can you help me help you? Keep calling. We're going to show up. We might not be able to do much, but we're going to show up every time. And now we've got 4 or 5 different calls, and we know that this apartment is having problems, or this group or this area, there's a problem. The kids are smoking in the parking lot between the apartment building and the mosque. Okay? Keep calling. Keep calling. Sometimes we'll catch them, sometimes we won't, but it's going to bring our attention to it, and we will eventually help get rid of it. That's the goal. Not the best answer, but I addressed it. We are just over past noon, but I'm willing to take more questions. You lead me. You got any guidance? One more question? Yes, ma'am. So the question was going back to bullying. If something happens in a school where a child, let's say, kicks another child, and nothing really happens at the school, it kind of goes away, everybody gets talked to, and nothing really happens. Fast forward another 6 months or so, and something else happens again. Can you go back and place charges on what happened 6 months earlier? Did I recap that accurately? Okay. The answer is it depends. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to go back and press charges on the earlier event. There are exceptions to that, but most of the time you're not. It has to do with expediency. It has to do with what in fact happened. It has to do with evidence, because at this point it becomes a hearsay. It just becomes your word versus their word because we have no proof that anything happened. We might have statements. There's ways around that. But that's the general consensus. That's probably what's going to happen, is you're going to deal with today's event and not deal with what happened 6 months ago. Now, if we go to court, we can bring in what happened and talk about that. But generally, you're not going to be able to go back to the old event and place charges on it. That's the way the legal system. I agree. Take the action sooner than later. You don't have to do it today. You could wait a couple of days. But the longer you wait, the harder it is to convince an intake officer in the juvenile system or a magistrate in the adult system to go and get those charges from something that happened a couple of days, a week, a month ago. That goes across the board at any level. So, yes, ma'am. Last question, because she already stood up. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I should.
Right. The question has to do with special needs children in the public schools, that they can't communicate properly, and it's hard to tell whether or not they've been bullied in any way, and we don't know. My suggestion is get to know those teachers and teachers' aides really, really well. The ones that I've met on the special education side, my sister being one of them, one of my sisters was a special education teacher. They are more caring and more concerned than the average teacher. Sorry to all teachers. I have 3 sisters, all 3 are teachers. My dad was a teacher, so I love teachers, don't get me wrong. But the special education teachers are different. And they are going to take extra care for your child. And they are going to be much more concerned as to how your child is being treated. And they will talk to you about it. They're the ones that are going to see it. They're the ones that are going to be able to communicate with you on a level that is more normal, if that makes any sense. So there's really no answer to your question. So I gave you a suggestion around it. Okay? I think we're ready to go, so unless you really have a burning question, I'll be here for a little while longer. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.